What if your story could ignite a movement? At New Solutions Network, we merge truth, resilience, and reinvention, fueling shows that cut past the noise and light up what really matters: human potential. Police, athletes, survivors, incarcerated folks, visionaries, we bring raw, real voices the world needs to hear. Want to share your story? Want to sponsor change? Now is the time. New Solutions Network, unlocking the future, one voice at a time. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Natanya Experience. Joining me today is the one, the only, and I'm not going to call you Johnny, unless you want me to, but the one, the only, Mr. Professor, Mr. Dr. Jonathan Quash. Welcome, welcome, welcome from the City University of New York, BMI.
Thank you so much.
Let's break it down. Hi, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I really treasure this opportunity to be here with you.
Wow, the bar must be low.
No, not at all. Heard only great things about you and the great things you're doing. So thank you for inviting me. I really am honored by that.
Absolutely. I think if we could, we're going to start. We always like to start on a high note around the good stuff, right? And we talk about in the show people or organizations or representatives who are working with people who are maybe having a struggle. And that struggle might be because of the zip code they were born into or the family circumstance they were born into or their own choices and all that. But we're not about judging those things. We're all about looking at how can we examine our own behaviors and others and bring together resources, community, and things like that to help everyone want to be here and be here together, right? And bring our differences together. And you, in your work and what you do tirelessly, and this is outside of the musical stylings that we will talk about, but in your work with CUNY, you do that in a very big way. So I was wondering if you could break down a little bit about what you do today and the BMI program, and we'll start from there.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, the program itself was founded 20 years ago because of a need at the City University of New York to address the challenge of graduation and retention rates for young men of color in New York City, and that was a big challenge that specifically Medgar Evers College, under the leadership of Dr. Edison Jackson, he decided to address. And so that particular program, which was called the Male Development Empowerment Center, grew into today what is known as BMI. So whereas back then it was the one campus, now we are actually 25 campuses.
The 25 campuses across the city.
That's right.
Yeah, with 8,000, right?
8,
Did I hear that right?
Students. And
8,000 students.
And growing. Hopefully,
do you know everyone's name? No, I'm kidding. Because that would have been a real flex.
That would be really interesting.
No.
But we my goal is to continue to have us to grow. Since I took over this position, we've grown by a few thousand.
Amazing.
But the goal is to really address the needs still of graduation and retention rates for those young men. Our program rates are really good. They're great because we provide support for those young men in New York City. But for me personally, as you mentioned, sort of a previous career in music, what I decided to do, because I was born and raised in New York City, and I see so many of our young men of color falling into perhaps obstacles or pitfalls or potholes into not doing their very best for their community.
Right.
And that's really one of the things that I'm very passionate about. I really believe in helping, but also more so having young people learn the ways in which to share and to empower their communities so that their resources increase, so that the crime decreases,
right?
So that their
all the good stuff,
all the stuff that
they can be better for their family if they have children, or they're a sibling, or they're a provider, whatever their role is in their immediate life, as well as the extended life. And as we know, those things ripple. Those positive, right? And every life that you help ripples out.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
For those who might live in ivory towers and not know, can we talk a little bit about some tough stuff around why the focus is here and what are some of these things? I mean, I could say the obvious big ones around, and we're going to be careful here, but we're going to talk about maybe a lack of generational wealth. We can talk about, we're not going to try and dismantle institutional racism in a podcast on couches, but but I will say, that people might not recognize how isolating and what these experiences are and why that support is so needed.
Mm-hmm. And if I can, I'll just give you my own personal example.
Perfect.
To show you why I do what I do and on those points you're talking about. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. I went to a school district that is not, the average median income is not very high. So therefore, the resources in the school were not very great.
Right.
I would get books, textbooks from every semester. You get textbooks as the first day of classes. No covers, usually 7 to 8 or maybe 15 pages torn out.
Missing.
So therefore, you're not learning everything that's supposed to be in that book.
Right, and you don't feel like you're valued, right? If you're there, like.
If
School matters.
Getting,
school is important. Here's this floppy thing that's supposed to be a textbook with like 3 states missing in the 50-state explanation or whatever it is, right?
Absolutely.
I guess I'm not going to learn about Oklahoma because it's not there.
Exactly, and the value is really what in terms of your feeling of self. So going to college for me, the first year was the most traumatic. I went all the way upstate New York because I was finding a music program, and I went in there with so many tools missing in my tool belt, because there were so many basic things that others knew that I did not, some of which as a result of those missing books, but also some of which as a result of not having the opportunity to experience some extracurricular activities, the opportunity to perhaps learn other things, other languages or other opportunities, traveling to other places, really those things that sort of really round out a young person's life and their way that they see things.
Different kinds of models of what careers could be, what all those kinds of things.
And as a result, I did horribly, and I dropped out of college for several years. I went to work in retail because I think I'm good at sales, and I had a pretty good living. But the idea was that I knew there was something missing, something I felt like I needed to finish. And I decided, and my coworkers actually forced me to go back to work, to college rather, to get back into school and finish my degree.
They're probably like, you're smart. Why aren't you in college?
This is what they would say to me. They would say to me,
"What's wrong with you?"
Every day they were like, "Why are you here?"
No, I mean I could feel it. I just.
Yep. That's what they would say every day. Why are you here? You need to go back and get the degree. And so I went back, got a couple of degrees. But the idea is that I see myself in a lot of those young men people, that I see every day. As
and
far
they need
as
somebody to see them,
right, and fight for them, to advocate on their behalf, and that's really what my life story has been. Because again, I remember those days of sitting in the classroom, in the back of the classroom, not focusing, not paying attention, and not really absorbing all that another district would be absorbing.
Right.
And so therefore, those imbalances are really what is at the heart of the issue in New York City anyway.
When you don't exist in the story, you don't want to participate in that story.
And then when you go to college, you feel like a fish out of water because you can't blend in. You're not used to that environment where you're kind of independent of thought. You're used to being told what to do every day.
Right.
So that's where we come in.
That's amazing. And what are some of those support resources like? Now, we talked a little off, but since that wasn't part of the show, I want to bring that conversation into here a little bit about around sort of, I heard of, social work, certain kinds of job, trainings, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what that support ecosystem looks like?
One of the main goals or main principles of the program is mentoring. And so we really believe mentoring is a big part of student success for underrepresented populations, particularly those who have never been in a mentoring relationship before. So we have mentors at the peer level, we have mentors at the faculty level, and we also have mentors at the industry professional level. What I mean is, if there's a young man, say Mike Brown is deciding, he's a sophomore in college, and he decides to major in accounting. So we have accounting firms and professional finance people who have agreed to be a mentor to that particular individual. We're only doing it right now with accounting and finance, but we do it with our pre-med program. We do it our pre-law program. So our professional programs already have that, but now we're just doing it with our traditional bachelor programs.
Right.
So there's that. There's testing. So for those who are looking for, like, to get into med school, to get into law school, or even to get into college, we have GED programs and GED testing. Young men who are single dads are part of the CUNY Fatherhood Academy that we support, as well as those perhaps that are currently and formerly incarcerated. We also have programming that speaks to letting them get credits while incarcerated,
right.
And then also applying those credits toward an associate's degree, or even if upon release and graduation, they can apply that degree to be a part of a senior college or bachelor's program.
Right.
So we try.
So nothing is lost.
Nothing is lost.
And everything is gained
Exactly.
in a time when it's hard to hold on to anything.
It's very hard to hold on to things right now, yeah. Particularly particularly for migrant populations.
Yes.
That's a really big challenge for us right now.
Because there's no scaffolding there.
And there's really no precedent either.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no structures in place.
Throw in the pool and start to swim.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's what immigrants' life in America is, right?
And so we're providing mental health resources as well.
Yes.
For that.
And when you were saying about the mentor, had the privilege of being a part of an organization called, well, it's kind of the opposite, is Women Who Create, and out of New York City, which is a mentor and scholarship program for the BIPOC, for women of color. Okay. And it's a mentor program with an app that would match, young women or those who identify and trans folks too, with mentors. But one of the things that the executive director did that was really powerful, I thought, and kind of terrible to recognize, but wonderful that we asked these questions, was asking to measure the effectiveness of the mentor program. We also wanted to do a litmus test of who had ever had a mentor before.
Oh, okay.
And why would you want one, and how it was. Well, I guess I'm going to just say it. I thought I knew, but I'm always learning, and I'm grateful to be invited to the spaces that I am and to be an ally. But I didn't realize really sometimes that delta, that most of the young women in the survey, for the most part, young women and trans folks, had said that they never thought that they could have a mentor or even thought of such a thing because of the fact that they thought you had to have like connections. Yeah. And the connections come from having maybe parents who are in those industries or had even gone to a college, or, especially if they're first gen or things like that, right? So just the delta between mentor sounds cool, but then also the intimidation factor, because they didn't know anybody who had a mentor, so they just figured it had to be something like they saw in the movies. Right. And so when you said that, it struck with me, because I think that is sort of a uniform thing, that there's a big push in the news that like we're all doing all this great stuff, but there's still generations of time that have happened that we haven't accounted for. Yes, and there's so many young people who don't want to say, I don't know, or I don't know how, or is this for me? Absolutely. But it's not there. Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And that stigma is really something that is it's creating that delta to even be wider. In terms of
because the helpers sometimes didn't even know what we didn't know.
Exactly. Right.
Admittedly, I'm not proud of that, but just to say wow, this is even a bigger issue under the issue. It wasn't like, and then was this mentor good? They're like, yeah, but I also didn't even know I could have a mentor. And we're like, wait, what? Yeah. And it was just. I think of the buddy system and big brothers and big sisters and organizations that are civic minded, and yet they seem to stop outside of things that are more academic or functional work.
Right. That's true, and that's a challenge with mentoring. So actually part of my research, part of my doctoral work has to do with mentor program design, and so finding that sort of fit and finding that population to participate is a challenge, because there are so many different populations. Just think about if you're at a school or a college or university in New York City today, you have we'll call them Black and Latino populations, perhaps some of which are ESL in terms of the Latino population. You have veterans. Right. You have those who are formerly incarcerated. Right. You have those who are living in transition housing. Yep. You have so many populations of students who kind of have one particular thing that they relate to or that identifies them, and yet you're going to try to find a mentor, the kind of. So it's a hard thing to do, but the great thing is, like with the organization you're talking about, the great thing is there are these organizations, these CBOs, who are really stepping up now, or who are looking to participate, like veterans groups, who are, and LGBTQ groups, and others who are looking to really be part of the solution. And I think it behooves us in higher ed to partner with them.
Right. And then to say, we're not trying to put you in a box. We're just trying to be, here's an open invitation.
Exactly.
And it includes you and it includes you.
Exactly.
And this is what it's for.
Exactly.
Because that's another thing. They were like, sort of like, I don't really know what it's for.
Right.
Especially if you're not necessarily in a track, like you said, like pre-med or something where it's very defined. Right. So that's another area, but that's okay. That's a great time to have a mentor, actually.
Absolutely,
to not stumble or not maybe get called back to the streets if that's where you were.
Yeah.
Or to wrestle with the fact that, like, you want to still have education, but it's a sacrifice whether you're on scholarship or not. You might have a family business to run, or you may have other obligations. Maybe it's a childcare, like you said about the fathers, right? Like maybe it's a other resource, like that's not necessarily directly in the academic situation, but it impedes that person from attending school.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly the point. I am lucky in that I had as a mentor my father. Oh, he's passed away now. My parents were divorced, but even still, he'd spend time with me. He'd go to my recitals. He'd do all the things that you want a dad to do, and he really was a mentor because he also talked to me about education, about career, and different things. And I realized though, but not every young man has that same experience, particularly with a father who has a master's and went to college himself.
Right.
I realized though the importance of being able to step in the gap when a young man is going to school and maybe no one in his house, has that experience, understands what the grit is that's required for higher ed. So it is important to expose those populations to as many opportunities as they can, so that they can then take advantage of that.
And see like all the choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the thing that I feel like is very different across sort of some of the divides, whether they're socioeconomic or let's just focus that way for safety, I guess. But just to say, because when you see before you a limited number of choices, it's a very different life.
Yeah.
We've talked to people on our shows here, in our life and working experience that have come out of Queensbridge and all the places. And, basically we're told over and again, what I saw was you do this or you're dead.
Yeah, right, yeah. Oh, I know.
Or you do this or you don't eat.
I've had students come to me saying, Professor Quash, I'm sorry, I have to drop out because my affiliation in my neighborhood told me if I come back, I'm dead. And that's a hard, I can't say to that person, oh, come on, this is, I have to acquiesce to their choice of what their lives are really like.
It's why I think there's like, and I do feel a little awkward, having this conversation in this container. So I appreciate that we can do this, and hopefully, audiences will understand. I'm just trying to learn and bridge worlds here. Yeah. That, sorry, I'm feeling a little emotional. Like that, it's become this badge of honor stigma thing. To eschew, or I guess the word is like say that like education is like a sucker's way. Yeah. Like it's not cool for like. How do I say it, right? Like you said, the fact that there was a threat of like, if I come back to school, I'm out.
Yep. Right.
But I also understand why that built away, because it also what education represented in this country. It was othered.
Right.
So it's like, are you a sellout, essentially?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like an artist making themselves commercially available and making a deal with Target.
Exactly right.
Or a music artist, right? Like you made that commercial, you're a sellout. You're not a real artist.
Get away from us.
So it's a lighter way to talk about that. But I do think that's a tough thing, that only some people have the respect of certain communities to be able to hold that court and to be able to challenge that and to do it like you're doing it with sort of an open hand. Like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to offer.
Exactly.
And then if I offer and offer, who can come? And then hopefully over time, people will see and find ways to, not feel like they're making a life or death choice to be educated.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I'm not saying that with judgment. I'm just saying it makes me sad.
And it should. And it wasn't until that young man and his family decided to move out of his community that he actually came back.
Amazing.
And because he had to take care of home, and make sure his mom and sister were safe, and it was safe for him to fulfill her dream of him getting a degree,
Can you imagine how many people would never even be aware that these are the choices
I know
of people's lives.
It's really, I have one story of a young man I just absolutely love to death. He's one of my heroes, though. He's one of my former students as well. Oh. He was 16 years old, playing on a basketball court with friends, got shot. And he suffered some obviously injuries close to his spine, but he, while in the ER, he was, in the emergency room, they would cut the lights out. So he began to get sort of a psychological condition when it came to ultraviolet light. Not ultraviolet, but fluorescent lights, because he's there in that ER for 3 days. So sitting in the classroom, I'd noticed he'd fall asleep all the time. And I'm like, what's going on? So he broke down and told me it's the light. Because of this situation when I was when I was shot and hospitalized, it became this sort of stigma where I wanted to sleep so bad, but I could not because the light was on all the time. Long story short, we worked on that with him in terms of getting him past that, having seen counselors and a few things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real PTSD loop.
Right.
And it was neurological now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's like hardwired, so that's a tough thing.
Forced out of his home at 16 by his family, having to live on the streets. Now, to this day, fast forwarding for time, master's degree in social work, has his own practice, and is running one of the largest social work organizations in New York City.
I mean, those are the best stories.
Yeah.
Those are the best stories. And, we have some mutuals and people that we get to know. And, it's such an honor for me to see people who really, one person can make such a difference.
Absolutely.
And that's another huge thing.
Yes. It only takes one person.
It really does. And there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but I know we've kept you here a long time today.
Okay.
But I do want to talk a little bit about what it's like when you're working with the incarcerated individuals, especially, you've talked to me about and on our other show about going in and singing. With your singing groups. And we talked about in the break room about how song is such a primal way of expressing.
Absolutely.
And when you're incarcerated, so many people on our shows or in our friend groups or in our, world have had that experience, and it's beyond dehumanizing. Been hurt. Like you're treated like an animal. You're less than human. You don't have your possessions. You don't have anything. You always have to look over your shoulder. Oh, I have to be careful when I look over my shoulder. You always have to look over your shoulder. I'm oversimplifying some little moments, but just to say, what do you have? You have your thoughts, and maybe you have your voice, if you're allowed, when you're allowed to sing, and then whatever you could do to fill those thoughts and skills. So there used to be a lot of programs in the prison system and the jail system that would really focus on things like education and apprenticeship and things like that. Right. And that then all of a sudden, we were hearing this, like, I thought I was going to learn this and I thought I was going to learn that. We didn't learn anything. We played cards, and there'd be like one guy doing electrical and the rest of us just watching. And I'm not making fun. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't, and they were like, I don't know, like, and what can I do? And no one will hire me. And then also people forget about, when you get released, usually, right, there's not only the probationary period. That doesn't mean just don't be bad, like people who don't know. There are a lot of fines and rules, and there's a lot of blockages, basically, around you. Constrictions, right? Restrictions from and you may or may not have any, depending on what happened to you and what was, whether, and also how many people who did nothing or wrongfully, none of that gets like, okay, you're out now, here's your party and here's your car and your job and your life and good luck. So maneuvering that sort of freedom, but still now the label, the threat of the weight of it, as well as maybe 5 years went by, maybe 15 years went by, 4 years. We know at the rate of AI changing jobs, so that the skills that are required to get a job are accelerating in the world around you.
Particularly in technology.
Technology. So you were talking a little bit about, the current mayor in New York City who's been saying that they're committing to doing more with, work programs. You're saying that CUNY is involved. And I think these are really, really big things that are happening in the city. Are you guys involved? And I apologize for my naivete that I didn't do homework on this before, but are you guys involved with like across the nation, other organizations, or is this more like chapterized where, because we're New York is a big pool, you have enough to keep busy, I think. 8,000, just a couple kids. But just that, how do you guys share this information or this model? Is that something you guys do?
It is actually, and it's a great question, and it's not, you wouldn't be able to research it because it's right now just in the planning phase.
It's nascent,
we do have a program that we're working with the mayor's office actually on, specifically the City Council of New York. One of the council members has done some research on how to improve the things that we're talking about, as far as the recidivism, as far as the resources available for you.
Right. And the recidivism is, for those who might not understand, is if you don't want people to go back to jail.
Yeah. You're right.
And it's easy to go back to jail because it's really hard to stay out of jail when no one will hire you, and you have to pay more fines than you have money to pay. You may not have anywhere to live. You can't get a place to live, so it's understandable. We're not saying what's good or bad, or it's not our job, right? What's a crime? But we're just saying it's reality. Preventing that helps a legacy.
So what they're trying to do is create, for the first time in New York City's history, an Office of Black Male Excellence that will really speak to providing the resources, both social work, mental health, everything, for that population that needs it. So it's a model from other cities. There are a few other cities like Philadelphia, Atlanta, that have this.
That's what I had heard about Atlanta.
Right.
I actually didn't know Philly, which is closer, but that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And they have this sort of resource for individuals so that not just recidivism, but also other kinds of say it's just misdemeanors, and to sort of like pull yourself out of that sort of loophole, that you're kind of continuing that same cycle.
That's like, just let's brush it up and move forward.
And move forward.
And people that say, you matter. You're okay. You're still an amazing human. You still got work to do here.
Exactly. And you still have the opportunity to get a degree, change your community, change your life, have your family live in a better life, that kind of a thing. Amazing. Home ownership, which I'm a big fan of.
And that's
Right. And so this is something that's new, and it's something that is will be voted on actually within the next few weeks. So it is something that we've gotten some national support for.
Amazing.
And so that's what we're hoping for. It is hard in this current climate, as you know, federally, but New York State, I'm very happy to say, is at both city and state level is very supportive of this type of programming. And we realize, things aren't always going to be the way they are currently.
Yes.
So we do look toward that.
Well, your enthusiasm, your shine is so beautiful. I can't imagine that people don't see you as a beacon of light for so many. And I know we're going to be seeing each other in a couple weeks in October. Do you want to close out and tell everyone about this incredible event coming up?
Yes, absolutely. We have on October 3rd at Medgar Evers College, all day, 9 to 4. We have
all day,
but lunch is included. So we have.
I like that. I just put that in there. But lunch
so
is
it's not like you have to go out and get something to eat. But we have our 20th annual conference, and we're really just celebrating 20 years. We're celebrating the founders of the program.
Amazing.
We're also celebrating our keynote and only keynote speaker happens to be David Banks, former New York City School Chancellor, and we're also celebrating the lives of some historic individuals in New York City, in the life of New York City.
Is it a secret?
No,
because I know, but I didn't know if you can say.
Yeah, we're celebrating like the life of Irv Gotti.
Yeah,
we're celebrating quite a few others because of what he meant to New York City, and also his wife Tina Lorenzo, and we're also celebrating Senator Leroy Comrie. We're celebrating author and activist Kevin Powell. Quite a few people who have made the program what it is in 20 years.
Amazing. Well, I thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
Being here and doing all that you do, and just thank you for sharing. And obviously, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The best way, our website is CUNY BMI. You can just search that, and all of our contact information, emails, numbers is all there. CUNY BMI. You can follow us also on social media.
And so we have to say it.
Yeah, you can follow us on.
I know neither of us are super into it, but we have to say it because it exists and it is important, and it is a way to kind of get a glimpse of some of the powerful stuff that you do.
Right, because we list the events there and all that kind of stuff. Exactly. Please follow CUNY BMI.
CUNY BMI. CUNY.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. I was like, bye-bye. I didn't know how to end that one.